This is WEJF 90.3 FM, Palm Bay. Good afternoon. The time is 12 noon on this Wednesday, and Helping Seniors of Brevard gets underway with your host, Kerry Fink, and his special guest coming up in just a moment. But first, let's check our Wednesday afternoon weather forecast. Just a 20% chance of a stray shower this afternoon. We'll have a high of 90 degrees with wind out of the southeast at about 20 miles per hour. Then for tonight, a 20% chance of rain, slight chance of showers with a low tonight of 79. It will be windy again tonight, wind out of the southeast 15 to 20 miles per hour. For Thursday, we're looking tomorrow at sunny skies with a high of 88. Tomorrow night's low 80. On Friday, a 20% chance of rain with a high on Friday of 88. Friday night, mostly clear skies with a low on Friday night, pretty warm low of 80 degrees. Then for Saturday, a 30% chance of rain. It will be mostly sunny, high on Saturday of 90. Saturday night, look for partly cloudy skies, a 30% chance of rain with a low on Saturday night of 80. And for Sunday, a 30% chance of rain, partly sunny, high on Sunday of 90 degrees. Right now, the report time, relative humidity stands at 78%. Wind is calm. The visibility is 10 miles. Heat index right now making it feel like it's 96 degrees, but in reality, our actual temperature for the moment stands at 90. That's 90 degrees right here on the Talk to Me network, home of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Kerry Fink is standing by, your host. We'll get to the show in just a moment with this special guest, but first, we want to talk to you about something very special that is coming up, and we'd like to invite you to take part in our very favorite tradition. It's the annual Helping Seniors Choose Your Adventure car raffle. It's the 10th annual, and this year, one lucky winner will choose from 7 brand new 2026 vehicles. Now, whether you love a sporty convertible, a rugged pickup, a family SUV, or a stylish sedan, there's something in it for everyone. The grand drawing will be held on Sunday, October the 25th, during our special Sunday at the Museum celebration at the American Muscle Car Museum in Melbourne. The best part, you don't have to be present to win, but every raffle ticket sold serves as your admission to this fun filled afternoon at one of the nation's most premier automobile collections. In fact, I'd say in the world, normally not open to the public. Most importantly, every ticket purchased helps Helping Seniors of Brevard continue to provide free information, education, advocacy, and our senior information helpline for seniors and their families throughout Brevard County. Tickets are just $25 each, or 5 for 100. And to purchase your ticket, you can call 321-473-7770. That's 321-473-7770, or visit helpingseniorscarraffle.com. That address again is helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Thanks for your support in Helping Seniors of Brevard. And as our founder, Joe Steckler, always said, keep it going. Seniors need us. Good luck, and we hope to see you on Sunday, October the 25th, or better yet, behind the wheel of your brand new car. Hey, it's good to hear that music on this Wednesday afternoon. Always nice to be with you. It's Helping Seniors of Brevard Radio. I'm John Harper. Let's throw it over to our Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host of the show. Here's Kerry Fink.
Well, thank you, John Harper. Always great to gather around the radio lunchtime on Wednesdays right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And if you're tuning in online, we appreciate that as well. at WEJF.net. And if you're one of the growing number of folks who tune in via podcast, because that's something that's important to us, that we keep getting a lot of feedback. People say, this is great that you guys put this out wherever I can get a podcast. So if it's on uh, any place from Apple iTunes to Amazon Music to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Good Pods, wherever you are, you can find Helping Seniors. And people love it because they say, number one, if I miss part of the show, I can go back and pick it back up. Or if it's a topic that's very important, maybe not for yourself, but somebody that you know, you can share this with them and then they can be up to speed on the latest information that hopefully would help them. And today's show is going to be about some of the latest information because for many of you, you know that we had our inaugural caregivers conference last Wednesday at the Senior Resource Center of Brevard. That's that beautiful location that they make available to us in the Omni Healthcare building, officially called the Apollo Professional Tower. And so they give us a big spot on the second floor, and we're always busy using that to try to make as much of an impact to educate seniors and their families about the things that they might want to know to help them make, as Joe would call it, an aging plan, or as we often call it, to be a little bit lighthearted about it, we say getting your ducks in a row. And so it was really a phenomenal event. We had lots of people show up, but the most important thing was the quality of the information that was there. We had so many good panelists, and we were so privileged to have a longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization who kindly agreed to moderate it and did a superb job with that. Her name is Jennifer Barton. She is the owner and has been helping seniors for a long while, but she is the owner of Seniors Helping Seniors, which is her company that hires seniors to help seniors. And what a great company that is, and what a great conference that was. Welcome, Jennifer. How are you?
It is wonderful to be here. Thank you. It was a really good conference.
Yeah. You know, it was interesting because you and I were talking a little bit before as we were kind of architecting what this would look like. I particularly really remembered and appreciated something that Gary Bard, who had an organization called Caregiver. First, it was Caregivers Magazine. Later, it became Caregiver.com. And he would actually take this show on the road all around the country. We were fortunate that he would stop here in Brevard County like once a year, and they would hold a big caregivers conference. And I remember, Jennifer, the first one that I had gone to, I was so impressed because it wasn't like he had really great professionals who knew what they were talking about up there, but it wasn't like he had organized it like it was a panel. Like, let me tell you people how to do this. The way he organized it was he had the panel and all these experts were on the panel, but all the other experts were out in the audience. And it became this really wonderful conversation that somebody in the audience would say, hey, I'm running into this. And oftentimes the panel might have a suggestion. And sometimes it was somebody else in the audience who said, oh, I went down that road and this is how I handle that. And so, although we lost Gary a couple of years ago, so they're just not flat doing those anymore. And we talked about we would really love to have this continue as a local resource in Brevard County because, as you know, we're not getting fewer seniors, we're only getting more. And by definition, that means more caregivers. And so, Jennifer, you helped us really organize this in a way that we could really have some really quality people on the panel, but really kind of adhered to what Gary had set up originally, which was making this a great conversation with everybody.
Exactly. That was the goal, was to keep it um conversational, to really keep that open dialogue going and making sure everyone felt really comfortable in sharing, asking questions, giving their own techniques, and thankfully that's what people did. So I was really happy when people felt very comfortable to raise their hand and say, here's what I do in that situation. Here's what helps me, and to ask the questions. And so I thought that open dialogue really did happen, and that's what made it a lot more valuable than, like you said, just listening to a couple of experts talk. It was definitely, there was give and take from the audience and from the panel themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we were trying to put it together, we were trying to think. We called it connect, learn, recharge, just to give it something. But really, the thing was, we broke it. It was a 4 hour program, so it went from 10 to 2, and we tried to use that first hour, uh, sort of on a theme of caring for yourself while caring for others. And I really like that as a place to start because so often, I guess when you're a caregiver you have this tendency to feel like you're the only person in the universe going through it, and that's not to diminish the seriousness of it for you as a person because it is all consuming when you're the caregiver, but it's that you aren't alone because a lot of people are making this same kind of journey, and that gives you a little bit of solace to know, like, hey, if they can make it through this, I can do this as well. And Jennifer, I'm just thinking about you and your company. You're like the answer to people's prayers when things are starting to get a little complicated and they get the wisdom to call seniors, helping seniors in and say, hey, we need some help with mom or dad or aunt or uncle. So you're kind of used, you have been a caregiver yourself, but you're also used to helping families when they arrive kind of at that stage.
Absolutely, that's what we hope to be. And our goal is to help that family get a little bit of respite, have peace of mind, be able to step away and make sure that they are getting their own doctor's appointments in, that they're taking some time out for themselves, getting that little bit of a break so they can come back, and have the ability to, to engage with their loved one in a more positive fashion. Because I mean, it's a lot. It really is. And so to be able to provide people with a little bit of a break. And sometimes we've had, where daughters are taking care of their mom or their dad. They're like, I get to be a daughter again, not the bossy caregiver, but I get to be daughter again because we've kind of come in and taken care of the meal and everything. So now she can just come in and enjoy dad. So that's always the hope, is that we can give them that peace.
We kind of sub-themed that whole first hour, avoiding burnout and preserving your own health. And something that when we've talked about this before on the radio, I've often used that, the same lecture they give us when we get on an airplane, in case the oxygen masks come out, make sure you put it on yourself so that you would be in a position to help those around you. Because if you go down, then everybody around you is not going to be able to do well. And I think that was one of the key points that you were really summoning out of the great panelists. And we had some great panelists in that first hour. It was Danica Scuderi Carluccio, who herself is a case manager, and that's what she does for a living with Advocates for the Aging, is trying to help make sure that they get the right help for the right person at the right time. We had Denise Bergman, as you remember, with Senior Care Authority, and not only is she an expert at caregiving herself too, but she is a company, Senior Care Authority, that likes to help people find the right living situation if it's not safe for mom or dad to stay at home. If you remember, we had Angelica Keene with the University of Florida IFAS Extension, and she was talking about some of the mental health ramifications. How tiresome and maybe even some occasionally depressing it can be because you just have all this pressure on you as a caregiver. And then we also had Lisa Conway, who is a registered nurse with One Senior Place, and she brought a lot to the conversation. But I think you and I were also trading notes that Grant Southwell, who was a stroke survivor, and his wife Alyssa, who is the caregiver, and when they shared their story, it really kind of like sparked a whole serious conversation, and everybody really seemed to appreciate that facet of how not only were experts involved, but just hearing from people who were living through that themselves.
I thought that was a huge part of it. They were so relatable, and Grant so well spoken. It just really added kind of an extra layer, and maybe a piece that has been missing, in other things that we've done. It really helped bring a lot of the points that were being talked about, bring that home. I remember at one point Grant saying, as the person being cared for, I could see that my wife was stressed out. I could tell, and I didn't want her to be that way, and I didn't know how to help her, but I knew she needed help. He wanted her to go get help. He was very okay with that because he said, "You think you don't know, you think you're hiding it, but we know. We see that you're stressed, and we don't want you to be stressed." So, it was just really great to see his point of view, and have him be able to express that so well.
Yeah, I thought that was extremely powerful because again, here is somebody who is not only who has some background where he not only has had to fight his way back. You know, you have a stroke; it's not a easy thing. I was telling him when I first met him, I said, you know, our founder Joe Steckler, um, you know, it was about a year. Jennifer, I know you remember, it was about a year after he got helping seniors started, and at 80, I think it was 82, he has a stroke, like literally, and in December, and all of a sudden, I remember getting summoned to the hospital where he was in rehab, and Joe could barely talk at that time, and his wife Terry was trying to explain to me what Joe was saying, but it was basically, I want you to film my recovery so people can know you can spring back from this. And so sure enough, we call in Hal, we bring in all the cameras, and we're filming Joe going through physical therapy. We're watching him go through speech therapy, occupational therapy. We're seeing him go even after he's discharged to physical therapy gym, and how they work with him there. And it was really fascinating. All those TV shows, by the way, they're right there. They're all standard definition. This is before we got to high definition, but they're still there. If you go to the YouTube website, Helping Seniors Brevard, you can see them. And Joe was adamant about making sure that people know that if you apply yourself, you can recover. And so two of the things that I think I'm really the most excited about remembering about that chapter was, I remember it was about 3 months after his stroke, Joe was able to return. He was at Sea Pines Hospital, is where he was doing the rehab. He was able to return there, and we filmed some TV shows with him 3 months after his stroke, and it was great. And I'll never forget, 1 year to the day when he had his stroke, we came back and we filmed TV show. In those days, Joe was hosting the shows, but we had actually called out his emergency room doctor, and she was a guest on that show. And I remember her walking in and saying, "Joe, you look so much better than the day I met you." And she goes, "As an emergency room doctor, we don't get to see what happens with the patients, and this is a great proof that if you will work at it, you can get better." So my point about relating the story about Joe, Jennifer, was that was exactly what Grant said. He said, I want people to learn from what I went through. And in fact, to this day now, together, we're trying to architect, because he really wants to do a stroke series to help stroke survivors and their families navigate. He said there was so much I had to learn how to do and redo. And Jennifer, that was what you were able to elicit into the conversation when you were moderating the whole thing.
And I'm sure he doesn't mind us sharing this. He was only 57 when he had that stroke, which unfortunately leads to other issues because he wasn't 65, so he wasn't Medicare yet, and that's people don't even realize, that makes things even more difficult from from an insurance standpoint and from a recovery standpoint. So there were some definitely hoops that they had to jump through as a family to be able to get the care that he needed. So it's just what a great couple. She was his lovely wife, was able to share too, a lot of how she felt when she was going through it. So and I could see a lot of caregivers out in the audience kind of shaking their head. Yes, yes, that we understand exactly how that feels. So it was really great to have somebody that was there on the panel who could kind of reiterate their feelings too.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I was thinking too. We've talked on the radio so many times too that your own experience in your family is probably why you have become so passionate about the work you do with seniors, helping seniors. Because as a caregiver, you have been there you firsthand. And I remember you were recently traveling because of somebody that you knew really well was in kind of end stages, and you were saying, wow, it was a lot tougher up north to get them the help they needed. Then it seems like we really do have some good resources here in Florida, I guess, is the point I was trying to get to.
We really do, and I think we kind of take it for granted. But we really do have a lot of resources. I was talking to a gentleman today on the phone where his wife has been diagnosed, and he's a little overwhelmed. And I started to tell him a few of the things, and I said, "Well, we can walk through this together. We're going to go out, we're going to do the assessment." But there are a ton of resources. So I don't want to totally overwhelm you, because we could almost overwhelm people with, but there's this and there's this and there's okay, one thing at a time.
Right.
We'll give you first steps, next steps. Here's something to think about later on when it comes to the 10 years down the road. Here's what you're going to need. But we are so lucky that we have a lot of resources right here in Brevard County for people.
That is not a bad transition into actually talking about what we did in the second hour. Again, the first hour in that session, we were spending our time to really try to address the fact that to a caregiver that there is hope out there. I know it's tough, and maybe at times it's probably the hardest thing you've ever had to do in your life. And there's no let up. It's not like you say, "Oh, let me pick this back up on Tuesday." It just doesn't work like that. You're just there, and you have to find a way to keep it all going. And that's why it is so easy to burn out as a caregiver. And we spent some time. You took a lot of time with some of the panelists. Like I remember Angelica from UFAS, University of Florida IFAS, talking about the importance of that self-care, because again, it's like that oxygen mask kind of thing. And I remember thinking it was so funny that somebody in the audience had actually brought that up. So when we got into the second hour, though, we were talking about navigating the caregiving journey. And the whole idea was hopefully to equip folks with practical tools and strategies for everyday caregiving. And so we had some really, here again, was wonderful resources. We had elder law attorney Cheryl Ward, who was there to kind of guide us through some paperwork things and things that we had to think about like that. We had Mika Allen with Beyond Balance Therapy. She's into physical therapy and helping people recover. Carlos Cuesta with Synergy Home Care was on our panel. Rebecca Osgood with the Health First Memory Disorder Clinic in the Family Caregiver Center that they operate right there on Babcock Street was with us, and we were all talking just like you were guiding the conversation about that there is resources out there that can help a caregiver make a difference.
Well, and yeah, that second one was okay. We were taking time for self-care in the first one, but now, all right, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We've got to do something. We've got to get some help in the house. We've got to kind of create the team. And they were all giving us how to create the team, with the elder law, what paperwork, so that I can speak on behalf of the team. If I don't have the power of attorney of healthcare surrogate, that I can't go in and talk for mom at the doctor's office. So have what is the right paperwork so that we can move forward, and then what kind of help can we get to make sure that we're hopefully preventing anything from happening, preventing falls, preventing um, decline, and then making sure that the caregiver does have some respite.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, as we were as you were saying that one of the things that is not lost is that Joe always talked about having an aging plan. And he was always encouraging people to plan ahead and start to think about some of the things that you should be trying to get ahead of the curve on. And we, to make it feel a little bit more comfortable, we call it getting your ducks in a row. And we do programs like Knowledge College for Aging, where we're trying to help people think through some of the elements that might help them on this. And then as we've been doing that, we've come up with a couple of corollaries that we say this is part of this whole program. The first and most important is don't try this stuff on your own. We always think we're masters of the internet and we're going to go, and particularly with AI, oh, we just think we're going to ask this thing something and get an answer. And it could be a good answer, but it may not always be the best answer. And so a lot of times, I use the analogy like for most of us, if we're thrust into a caregiving situation, this is in fact our first rodeo, and we're trying to figure all of what this means out at the same time that we're being called on to make important decisions and try to not go down in the process. We're trying to. I go. It's like being thrown, Jennifer, in the deep end of the pool, and you're having to learn how to swim while you're trying to save somebody else. But for somebody like you, this is not your first rodeo. With your company, you have done this for years, and you kind of are a great resource to help families figure out what might lie ahead.
Correct. We've been doing this since 2014. And then as you know, as a private caregiver myself for longer than that, but we love to be able to help kind of people navigate, because we understand, we know how frustrating it can be, and we know how complicated it can be. So trying to break it down and had making sure that people have the help that they need when they need it. And I know that was a big thing, like you were saying with Joe, was having the right care at the right time, and extending your dollars too, of caregiving dollars, that maybe I don't need 4 hours or 12 hours or maybe 2 hours, is going to be okay for now, and then increase from there. But knowing what your options are, knowing what assisted living looks like. I have so many families that no, 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 never putting mom in a facility, but they haven't stepped foot in a facility in 30 years, and they don't realize what they look like and the amenities and the activities and everything that goes on in them. And that's, having Denise Bergman there to, help people walk through those options. I mean, it is much different now than from when I was a kid.
Oh
The,
my
the
goodness.
options are amazing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we talked about it so many times. Most of our recollection was going to visit great grandma or great grandpa at quote the old folks home, right?
Right.
And as kids, it was scary. You couldn't wait to get out of there. It was dark. It was people slunched over in wheelchairs, and maybe it didn't smell great, and it just left you like, I want to be any place but here. And that was then. That was, let's be honest, that's 50, 60 years ago. What has happened now, and how far the technology has come, the care has come, the overall thought and care to make it really attractive. I mean, we're laughing, like some of these places look like cruise ships and have the service and the amenities and the activities that would kind of rival something like that. And it's just not your great grandfather's old folks home for sure.
No, it's not. No, we just last Thursday we went over to Your Life and looked at some of the new things that they've got going on, and there's just some really interesting therapies and technologies that they brought in to help their customers. So it's just mind blowing, what's happened even in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Some of the differences, the new technologies they're bringing in to help keep people safer. It's just everything's changing. So, well, okay, you want to keep mama home, great. But if she had to go in, if there ever became an issue of, something happened where she did, pick it out now so that you have that plan in place and you're not making it when it is a tragic situation, a stressful situation, not a last minute stressed decision. It is a thoughtful beforehand, like, okay, we don't want to have to use this, but if we did, here's where I'm okay with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors, we're having a good conversation about navigating the caregiving journey and some of the things we learned along the way in last week's Caregivers Conference. We're going to be back with the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show in just a minute. Please stay with us.
This is WEJF 90.3 FM, Palm Bay.
Join Helping Seniors of Brevard on Wednesday, July 15th at 10 a.m. for Java with Joe, Coffee with a Cop at the Senior Resource Center, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. Meet Joe Downs from the Brevard County Sheriff's Office for coffee, conversation, and practical tips to help seniors stay safe and informed. Enjoy complimentary coffee and Dunkin' Donuts while connecting with friends and neighbors. Special thanks to Rhodes Law, PA, whose generous support makes Java with Joe possible. Visit helpingseniorsofbrevard.org.
We're looking at a forecast for today of partly cloudy skies, 90 degrees for the high, a 20% chance of rain. Then for tonight, a slight chance of rain, a 20% chance with a low of 80. As we look ahead to Thursday, Tomorrow, we've got sunny skies, a high of 90. Tomorrow night's low, a very warm 80 degrees. On Friday, a 20% chance of rain, high again of 90. Friday night, clear skies, 80 for the low. Then for Saturday, a 30% chance of rain, partly sunny skies with a high of 90. Saturday night, a 30% chance of rain with a low right around 80 degrees. And for Sunday, a 30% chance of rain, partly sunny skies, high on Sunday 90. Sunday night, look for partly cloudy skies, a 30% chance of rain, and a low of 77. Looking ahead to Monday, a 40% chance of rain on Monday with a high of 88 degrees. Right now, the report time, relative humidity is up there at 78%, wind out of the southeast at 13 miles per hour. Visibility is at 10 miles. The heat index right now making it feel like it's 96, but in reality, you can mark the mercury right now at our forecast high of 89. That's 89 degrees right here on the Talk to Me network, home of Helping Seniors of Brevard. We'll get back to more of this interesting conversation coming up in just a moment. But first, want to remind you of a very special event that is coming up in October, and that is our we hope that you'll take part in our favorite tradition, the 10th annual Helping Seniors Choose Your Adventure Car Raffle. This year, one lucky winner will have an opportunity to choose from a couple of different cars, a sporty convertible, a rugged pickup, a family SUV, a stylish sedan, and we'd like to say there's something for everyone here. The grand drawing will be held on Sunday, October the 25th, during our special Sunday at the Museum. It's a celebration of the American Muscle Car Museum in Melbourne. And the best part, you don't have to be present to win, but every raffle ticket serves as your admission to this fun-filled afternoon at one of the nation's most remarkable, premier, private automobile collections, not only in our nation, but in the world. Normally, it's not open to the public. You got to see this. Most importantly, though, every ticket purchased helps helping seniors continue to provide information, education, advocacy, and our senior information helpline for seniors and their families throughout Brevard County. Tickets are just $25 each or 5 for $100. And to purchase your ticket, you can simply call 321 473 7770. Again, that's 321 473 7770, or visit helpingseniorscarraffle.com. Again, helpingseniorscarraffle.com if you go online. Thanks for your support for Helping Seniors of Brevard. And as our founder, Joe Steckler, always said, keep it going because seniors need us. Good luck, and we hope to see you on October the 25th, or better yet, behind the wheel of your brand new car.
All right, we're back with the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show. I'm Kerry Fink with Helping Seniors of Brevard, and we're having a good conversation with a longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization, none other than Jennifer Barton, who is the owner of a great company called Seniors Helping Seniors. Welcome back, Jennifer.
Good to be here.
So we were having a conversation in the first half of the show. We were talking about the great experience that we had. Actually, it was just last Thursday, where we were having the Caregivers Conference. It was the first one that Helping Seniors had ever organized, and with the very capable moderation assistance and help in developing this of Jennifer Barton, it was really a total success. Everybody went away feeling good about it. The first hour we spent really trying to reassure caregivers that you're not on your own. I know it feels that way, but there is hope and help that is out there. The second hour, we started on about the kind of resources that you want to assemble so that you can be the best resource for your loved one as a caregiver. And then we took a lunch break. Yeah, it was a great lunch, but then we got a chance to really move into the third hour of panel, which was talking about the resources that are available locally to help you. We called it building your caregiver teams, and you don't have to do it alone. In fact, we had on that panel, we had some wonderful resources, folks like Ali Elmasian from Aging Matters, Dory Hill with the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation, our own Nancy Deardorff from Helping Seniors, Robin Femister, who is a professional guardian and case manager, was on that panel, as was Deidre Schubert, Flourish Medical, and Karen Civitate from AARP Florida, who AARP themselves offers a lot of great resources. And Jennifer, I think that was one of the key parts of this whole equation, was trying to figure out where help exists. And I know we talked about it before. I want you to share just for a minute about your own company, Seniors Helping Seniors, because this is so often you really come alongside families. We've joked about it, like during COVID days, you became the lifeline for families when they couldn't come down and check in on mom or dad. But we've also talked about that many times you start to get the calls around the holidays when maybe the adult kids get to come down and they're hoping to have a nice visit with mom or dad, but they end up flying back with the feeling that, wow, this is getting a little overwhelming for them. They can't really handle this at the level that maybe they once could, even though every time we would call them on the phone, how are you? I'm fine. And so now it's become a challenge where they're trying to get help and start to build this. And you become, we talked about in the first half of the show, Joe used to call you like the first element of care, the place that many families need to begin to get some help going.
Yeah, absolutely. But the conversation that I had earlier, with the one gentleman, um, I explained to him we're the first rung on that ladder of care. And we can do quite a bit to help people stay at home, healthy, happy where they want to be. So that's always, a good thing. And then, again, we're part of the team. We'll often go out to do assessments and suggest other things. One of the things that he and I already discussed is Joe's Club, that is a resource out there that he may want to utilize. He doesn't think his wife's ready for it right now, but she may be in a little bit, and that may be a helpful, piece of the puzzle, or, another team member to bring in, that's going to be really helpful for the family. So we're always looking at how can we help, but also, is there another resource out there? And that's why it was so nice to have all of those resources at the caregiver conference, because that there are more resources out there that people don't know. They think, okay, I home care, and I know this one other organization, and that's it. But we had each one of those panelists talk about the different programs that they offer, because again, like Aging Matters with Allie, everybody knows Meals on Wheels, but they didn't know. A lot of I could see people's faces. They didn't know about Seniors at Lunch, and they didn't know about all of the other, products that they offer. So that was wonderful that people got to, and I thought it was very cute. We actually had Deidre Schubert was modeling a piece of medical equipment. She had a little procedure done on her foot, so she had to have a knee scooter. And, instead of going and buying one for 2 weeks, she went over to the Sunflower House, to their medical supply closet, is borrowing one for 2 weeks, and will return it, and somebody else gets to use it too. So we had the proof in action, as it were, with Deidre showing off, what some things are available here in the county.
Yeah, I was thinking about really that, first of all, it was phenomenal just to see the collection of resources that were available just in that room that day. And I was thinking, just like you said, I was probably a lot like some of the members in the audience, because even though I am doing my best to learn what everybody does, when you had them each go through what their contributions in the community and the services and programs they offer, I was learning stuff I just didn't know even existed. And as we used to talk about so often, if a service or a program exists but you don't know about it, it might as well not exist, because it's not going to help you if you don't know it's something you could grab a hold of when you need it.
Right, exactly, exactly. That's why I loved having them be able to talk about all the different things that they offer because you could see that on people's faces. I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that. There are things out there you just have to ask. You have to go out and look for them. You have to ask, to call the resource center. This is what's going on for me. What resources are out there that will help me get to where I need to be because there probably is something you just haven't heard about it yet.
As you were saying that, I was thinking when I first met Joe and Joe was telling me that he was architecting this, he had, as many people know, he was the guy that built up the Joe's Clubs. That's why they named him after him. And he got the whole Brevard Alzheimer's Association off and running. And then he retired from that. But as a retired Navy captain, he couldn't stay retired. So maybe he thought the third one would be the right one to eventually retire from. And as many of you know, he was literally working on helping seniors even though he was in hospice, literally on to the day he passed away and went on to be with the Lord. And so, one of the things though that I remember us talking about over and over was that he wanted to make sure people knew that resources were available and could and to know that you could find the help that you needed. And so, when he started helping seniors, he had this vision that there would be this organization that does senior navigation. And I remember thinking, Joe, that's good, but most seniors or the people that are caring for them really need money. And this organization, we can't hand out, we don't have money to hand out. That's always the problem. But I remember talking to him about 6 months after he started helping seniors and said, Joe, this is like a little engine that could, because while we can't necessarily write a check that makes a difference, I am amazed at how often knowing the right person to call when you're confronted with a particular situation, how much value there is in that, because it is life changing. If again, if you don't know a program exists or that there's help out there, you're going to be drowning, and you could be within a few inches or a few feet from getting the help that you really need. And I know you and I have talked about this on the radio before, where you'll have the kids are so excited to have you come in and help mom or dad, but then mom or dad is like, "No, I got this. I can do this on my own." And then the whole like just the relief that happens when it actually comes through. I love that. I love when you tell stories like that, because it proves that even though you think you know what you're doing, an expert can really make a difference by just plugging in and making life better.
No, we just had another customer who just started, and Ricky got an email today from the daughter saying, "Oh my gosh, mom was so resistant and so hesitant, but our caregiver just knocked it out of the park, as they say. She was really happy with her and the conversation that they had, and she's really looking forward to her to come again." So we were thrilled. Because she was really hesitant, but now she is completely open to the idea of having some additional help into the house, which is always what we hope for.
Yeah, I want to talk about that for just a second. I want to make sure people know how to reach seniors helping seniors. And because you're a unique company, and number one, you provide really quality care for the families that you get involved with. I mean, you guys are personally involved in making sure that you match the right caregiver to the right person, so that the personalities. And I remember one of the theories in the company was by hiring people who are closer in age to the people that they're helping, that there's a much higher chance of there to be good bonding and a good quality in that relationship. But then the other side is you hire great seniors to do the work, and so you're a great employer of seniors who are looking for a good opportunity to do something with a flexible schedule that has real great meaning. Talk a little bit about seniors helping seniors and how people get in touch with you.
So they can reach out. Our number is 321-722-2999. And of course, we have a website, seniorshelpingseniors.com/Brevard. We're on all the social medias. We would love to hear from you, especially looking for people near and north. That's been really busy lately. So we would love to have some more people in the north part of the county. Um, but we really do try to match, not only is it someone closer in age, but it's also someone who maybe did the same thing, in their work life, has similar interests, hobbies. We really do try to match the caregiver with the client. And we find that if we're able to do that successfully, then the caregiver is having a great time with the client. So the client's getting great service and the whole thing works really, really well. We've gotten a reputation, and I giggle when I hear this, that, oh gosh, your ladies go above and beyond. And I love that people think that, but they're just having fun with their client.
Yeah.
So that's what we aim for. That's what we always hope for. So we are looking at hobbies, like I said, interests. I had two ladies. They were so cute. Um, they were from Wisconsin, and they were cheeseheads. They were Green Bay fans through and through. And so when I introduced the caregiver, she wore her Green Bay Packers shirt for the very first time. So when she opened the door and saw that, I didn't even need to be there anymore. She was so happy. Pushed me aside. Here you go. She's mine now.
Oh. Yeah, well, and I think that's so important because then what happens is when somebody finds that resource that's going to make that difference, it's kind of like the weight of the world comes off their shoulders because, like you said, when on a maybe a simple level, it's a family member that's having to be the caregiver. Now they get a chance to basically take a break, get some respite, and potentially, like you said, go back to being the son or the daughter and enjoying that relationship instead of like, well, what's the next thing I have to deal with right around the corner? So you've got that whole dynamic. But then the other thing is that you have somebody you can really rely on. And we've talked about this before. When you have the help that is the right help, for example, like we talked about, you may be the first person coming in the home to help the senior, but you're also, because of the experience and expertise you guys have, you also know when it may be becoming time to move to the next level. Like, okay, now we're at a place where we probably have to bring in another level of help, and you're there to help them navigate that as opposed to them trying to figure out how to read tea leaves and get to that right conclusion on their own.
Exactly, exactly. And you know what, I was again going back to the conversation that I had with the gentleman this morning. At some point, yes, you know, she might need some hands-on care, but now at least she's gotten used to having help in the house. She's gotten used to a routine and of having somebody there. So when we do have to, sometimes go ahead and uh, go towards the hands-on care, we'll work, recommend a company that we know and trust, that we know does a really good job. And, we'll hand off to that hands-on care company, and they can kind of come right into that same routine, but then provide that additional level of care. And it's a much nicer transition than if you've never had help in the home and now you've got help and they're helping me in the shower. So yeah, we're always very honest and open about, I think it's time.
Mhm.
Maybe mom has a couple of shower visits a week, or maybe it's time that every morning somebody is in that can do the hands-on part, and maybe assisted living is a better option. But we're always willing to kind of walk through that transition with them.
Yeah, Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors. That's the point that we were really trying to get through in the caregivers conference is that you don't have to try to figure this out on your own. That there are resources that you can get. And one of the things I love about everybody that was on those panels, and we talked about it a little bit, is that all those people are very, very kind with their time. At the end of the day, it's a business, and they do have to make sure that they can pay their people and all that stuff. But at the same time, what I kept hearing from everybody is they would much rather have you call them early. And so you can have a conversation that's not stress filled and you can talk about what possibilities are. Even if you might not going to be ready to do something in this minute, you're going to have the information. And so sometime down the road, next month, next 2 months, whatever, when something presents itself, you will have already done your homework and you'll know who to call.
Absolutely, and I really do encourage people to do that. Have that plan in place, like Joe always talked about. And I do think, when we were at the conference, I think hopefully it really showed that our industry here in Brevard County really is overall, they work very well together and they want what's best for the senior. And if it's them, great. If it's another assisted living or if it's another home care company, that's okay too. I have worked in other businesses in other areas that were not like that. But Brevard County has done a really good job at creating a culture where all of the senior industry works well, plays well together, and really wants what's best for the senior.
Yeah, that's so well said. And I guess like we talked about earlier in the show, you had been up north trying to help somebody in a very complicated situation, and it was a whole lot more difficult to find those quality resources. And I think that's just a blessing we have living here where we are, is that I see that everybody works together. Just a number of people who are willing to give up their morning to come out and share their wisdom in terms of being panelists. But then the interest and the amount of folks that wanted to come out and learn, it was really just a great, it was a great experience, and to the point that I guess we can have breaking news, Jennifer, that we had told everybody we're going to come up with a follow-up panel because we see this as becoming a twice a year event. And the reason being is because there's fresh people, like even while we're on the radio show, I guarantee you somebody's in a hospital situation or some kind of a serious situation where even while we're talking about this on the radio, they're having to start all of a sudden, wow, I'm in the caregiver pool. Now I got to figure out how to sink or swim. And I got to figure out how to swim or it's going to be terrible for everybody. So every day there's new people running up into the caregiver world. And so we want to make sure that this becomes sort of known in the county as a couple of times a year. If you haven't had a chance to participate, we want you to be able to do that. So we have now set the date. You're hearing this. If we had a little sound effect, we would go, it's the breaking news like they do on all your news programs. But we're going to go with Thursday, November 19th. So I'd like to ask you to put that on your calendar. It's going to be 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. As a charity, everything we do is free to those who are participating. So there's no charge for this, but it's going to be November 19th. Put that on your calendar, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you're going to be hearing more about it. That'll be the second version of the caregivers conference we do, because we want to get one more opportunity for caregivers to learn resources before the year is out. So that's going to be Thursday, November 19th, 10 to 2. So Jennifer, another thing I want to just mention before we run out of time on the show, it's a different topic, but in the helping seniors world, we're always trying to figure out places we can make a difference for our seniors. And so we've been very involved in a lot of programs that we do together with our friends at AARP called Scam Jam, which is trying to keep our seniors safe. And one of the and then we also are doing a lot with a division of AARP called Senior Planet, where we're doing instruction. We call it digital navigation training, so that when the doctor sends you home from the doctor's office and says, "Oh, just make your next appointment on the app," and you need to know how to do that on your phone, we want you to be equipped to do that. So we're doing a lot of that. But there is a date coming up that I want to make sure I also have you consider getting on your calendar. It is Friday, August the 7th, and we're doing a program called AARP Scam Jam, What AI Is. That is going to take place 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Zon Beachside, which is a great place right there in Indian Harbor Beach. They're going to let us meet in what they call the Lighthouse. They have this great meeting room, and they also have a great lunch, which they're going to serve us lunch there. It's free, but you got to RSVP, because last year when we did this, it was indeed standing room only, and we had to literally cut off the RSVPs. And as it was, we still had people sitting out in the hallway. So we're trying to not have that happen this year. We're trying to make sure everybody can be in the room, because Daryl Greer, who is one of the top executives with AARP Senior Planet Division. In fact, he's over many of the states and making sure all the training is going well. He is flying in from San Antonio. And he said, Kerry, he said, I don't want people, he said, I want people to be cautious about AI, but he said, I don't want to be afraid of it. In fact, I want them to know that this could be the greatest time in history to be a senior, because of some of the things that AI is going to be able to help us with as we make more trips around the sun. He says, I want us to be careful about the things we need to know about what scammers are doing and things like that. But he said, I'd really like to have you call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's what we're going to do with that program. We're going to have some fun sessions like, Is This AI? where Bree Prentice, who does a lot of our senior tech talks, she's going to present, she'll show you something and then ask the audience, is this AI or is this real? And then after she reveals what the correct answer is, we'll show you those things to look for. So if this pops up in your inbox or you're seeing something, you might be able to decode whether this is for real or whether this is something that's been AI generated. So this is a free program, and we want to encourage you to join us 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on August the 7th, but space is limited. It's going to take place at Zon Beachside, AARP, What AI Is. So for either of these things that we were just talking about, either the November 19th Caregivers Conference, hopefully, if you weren't there, you heard about it, and now you're like, hey, I need to get this on my calendar, or the August 7th, which is kind of right around the corner, What AI Is Scam Jam meeting, give us a call at 321-473-7770, 321-473-7770. And Nancy or one of our great volunteers, Elizabeth, Karina, they'll be happy to help make sure that your name is on that list. Again, free programs. Take advantage of it. Let's become smarter in aging. Jennifer, I want to kind of give you the last word to kind of like sum up what we've been talking about. It was such an important conference. And thank you again for moderating and helping us get this whole idea off the ground. It really turned out well, and we had so many good comments.
It really was, and I have had people comment on my Facebook, asking if, they were sorry that they missed it, asking when we're going to have another. So I'm excited that we have a new date and that we'll be presenting again. And one of the things that Angelica had talked about when we were talking about self-care was that, simply stopping and taking a breath
Mm-hmm.
is self-care. So, as we go out today, I want everybody to do that, to, stop and take a deep breath. And, if nothing else, you have done a little bit of something for yourself to move on in a positive fashion.
Beautifully said. All right, Jennifer Barton, Seniors Helping Seniors. One more time, if somebody wants a number, maybe they want to hear about caregiving possibilities, either as a recipient, like they have a relative, or maybe they're saying, hey, I could give back. I could do something like that. How do they reach you?
We can be reached at 321-722-2999. And again, we're on the web, on all the social media platforms. Reach out and we'd love to chat with you.
Well, thanks again, Jennifer. Well, that's about the time we have for Helping Seniors Radio this week. We're going to turn this program back over to John Harper, but we will look forward to seeing you right back here, 90.3 FM, on next Wednesday, 12 noon. See you then.
Great show, Kerry, Fink, and Jennifer. We appreciate it. I'm John Harper, president of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Don't forget our Choose Your Adventure car raffle coming up in October, and you can get involved with the car raffle by just purchasing one ticket at $25 or 5 for $100. Call 321-473-7770 or go online, helpingseniors.carraffle.com. We hope to see you at the American Muscle Car Museum on Sunday, October the 25th.
Join Helping Seniors of Brevard on Wednesday, July 15th at 10 a.m. for Java with Joe, Coffee with a Cop at the Senior Resource Center, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. Meet Joe Downs from the Brevard County Sheriff's Office for coffee, conversation, and practical tips to help seniors stay safe and informed. Enjoy complimentary coffee and Dunkin' Donuts while connecting with friends and neighbors. Special thanks to Rhodes Law, PA, whose generous support makes Java with Joe possible. Visit helpingseniors.brevard.org.